Hi, everybody. How are you doing? It's been a long, long time. Actually, since May 19th, really, to be specific. How are you? It's African Queen Mo and Susan here with you. Karibu, Susan. Yes, I finally have my new hairstyle. It's back to normal. So you guys, you know what? We were trying to figure out how do we get this show off the ground. We tried on Monday. I wanted to do it on Wednesday. Now it's Friday. Oh my God. We just have to do it. Just have to find time. So much is going on. Especially in Kenya, there's a lot going on, and I really need to be updated. I've been seeing things to do with Kenyans still squabbling with Tanzania. We're hearing rumors and stories about Boniface Mwangi and other what they call human rights defenders getting tortured and being hurt in Tanzania, which is really really sad. We're hearing about Kenyans who are hacking into the Tanzanian systems, and some of them even paying themselves millions of Tanzanian shillings, and Kenyans are cheering them on. I have my views about that. And then we're also hearing about this guy called the military guy, Mr. Lingley, who is in Kenya, who was in Kenya being interviewed by by Yvonne Okwara about the role of is it AMISOM? Yeah, of the AFRICOM, the role of AFRICOM in Kenya and in the Sahel region generally. What is the role of AFRICOM? And then I've also seen that the Ugandan president and I think our own have both apologized. What are they apologizing for? Yeah. And we know that there's a lot going on in terms of the economy. People are really concerned about the economy because it looks like the Kenya shilling is not doing very well right now. Equity Bank just fired, I think, was it like 1,000 staff, 1,200 staff in a day? Equity Bank. Hey, my goodness. People have been complaining that their monies are going missing in the banks. And also, Safaricom itself also had been firing quite a few people because of that kind of thing. Fraud. Have we become a fraudulent nation? What's going on with our country? Really, what's going on? Again, I believe that there's a new political party. I saw that these are all rumors in my mind because I'm now in the diaspora, guys. Yeah. But I know that there's a new political party that was launched by Okiem Omtata. How are Kenyans feeling about that political party? And he has been advised by some analysts that he needs to find somebody who is more of a people person, somebody who has some charisma to partner with him and to pair with him. Otherwise, he might fail. Yeah, because he was being compared to a good man like President Jimmy Carter. This is by Chris Kumakucha himself. Chris Kumakucha actually was comparing this guy with Jimmy Carter, who was a very loved president, but didn't have very much charisma and actually lost his seat to Ronald Reagan, somebody who has a lot of charisma. People like to give actors and people who are, flamboyant and the Trumps of this world, they're the ones who get the roles to play because they can charm the population. People like charisma. So even if you're a great leader, nowadays, because of our media, and our media needs to be entertained, as long as you're going to be there for the next 5 years, you got to be showing them something. But in the meantime, we really need to have a good and serious leader. I think we need a good leader in Kenya now. So anyway, that's just highlighting a few of the issues. And again, we're just talking with Susan here that we're losing so many lives, which is so sad. I myself, included. In our family, we have lost family members in a space of just about a year. We've lost two family members from one side. I mean, two family members from one nuclear family. And these are people who are living in the diaspora, which is really sad. And that also makes it even more complicated because we're so separated. Some of us are in the diaspora. Some of us are like now I'm in the UK. My cousin who we lost is in the US. She lost her son about 10 months ago. And this is such a sad, sad time for many, many families. Susan here is telling me that she just came from a funeral. And I know many people are suffering. Many people are coming from funerals. and many people are attending more funerals than weddings nowadays, which is really sad because what is going on? Why are people losing their lives like this? So welcome to the show. And yeah, let me give the floor to Susan to introduce herself and fill us in on what's happening. You guys join us. I'm going to start inviting all of you guys on my phone. So I'm going to give Susan the stage so that I can do that. Okay. Karibu, Susan.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
How is everyone? I'm really happy to be here. Yes, it's been a minute. We had a show uh, some time back, and good to keep catching up on what's going on and what's current in Kenya. Well, speaking about losing loved ones, we know, of course, as Kenyans, we've lost a great um, uh, Goge wa Thiong'o. Many of us studied some of his books. Yeah, we studied some of his books in high school. Some of us may have read Weep Not Child, which was published in 1964, The River Between, which was published in 1965, A Grain of Wheat, which was published in 1967. Maybe for our own reading, we read a book like Petals of Blood, which he published in 77. Devil on the Cross again, which he published in 1981. He's also done a number of plays, one of which, The Trial of Dedan Kimathi, I think that was in the for reading material for high school literature classes, and some essays and children's literature. Of course, he's written some also in the tongue of his mother tongue. And the reasons why he preferred, even when he received prizes, he would give his inaugural speech in the Kikuyu language, because he associated it with decolonization, speaking the language different from that of the colonizers. So I've just, today's newspapers have been full of his tributes and accolades to him and his history. This is the Standard newspaper, and it says, Goge's last word, literature icon, 1938 to 2025. The epilogue. In death, as in life, Goge wa Thiong'o refuses to be silenced. His voice, resonant, defiant, and uncompromising, will once again ring out from the Kenyan stage, reminding a nation of its buried truths and unfinished struggles. Through a pre-recorded performance of the trial of Dedan Kimathi, Goge takes one final bow, not just as a writer, but as a freedom fighter of the imagination, a man who believed fiercely in the power of language, theater, and memory to liberate the oppressed. That his last act was to breathe life into a play about resistance and justice in his mother tongue is a fitting conclusion to a life spent challenging tyranny in all its forms. Even in passing, he leaves us with a voice that insists on being heard. This is in the Standard. His last, they've got like what his epitaph would say: please don't cry for me, cry for our beloved country, Kenya. Goge wa Thiong'o, 1938 to 2025. The newspapers, that's the Standard newspaper. The Daily Nation, again, you can see it there. It says, Weep Not World. One of his books was called Weep Not Child, was entitled, that was his first book, 1964. Weep Not World. Icon, born in colonial Kenya 87 years ago, Goge wa Thiong'o had a culture of freedom struggle inculcated in his youth, forging him into a rebel with a cause and a scholar determined to push the boundaries of social activism. One of Africa's most prolific post-colonial writers, He bestrode the literary globe like a colossus, stirring intellectual debate, upsetting repressive order, and placing African literature at the center of world discourse. And that's for sure. There's a great picture of him, you know, weep not world. So we mourn his death, but he has left a legacy. And I think it's a challenge to all of us to also make sure that we do something, we impact the world and the spaces we live in a positive way. And so that we can, when it's our turn to go, we'll have done something good for this world. So that is Kenyans mourning him. Many have many things to say about him. Like I said, many of us are students of his books. They were used as set books in school, and they had powerful imagery. I mean, really powerful writing. One of my classmates said that by when he was in Alliance High School, that's Goge wa Thiong'o, in Form 1, he had read all the books, the storybooks in the library. So he was a very avid reader. Good writers also read a lot. Yeah, so, you know, I know some of us, maybe we can observe a minute of silence in honor of him. Okay, thank you very much, everybody, for that. Yeah, Maureen raised the issue of the online battle between Kenya and Tanzania. It's been really hot. You know, even songs being written and AI sort of comedic pieces which are, you know, being fronted there. And it's really, you know, Kenyans were really upset about the handling of the nationals. The alleged torture of Boniface, and there was another lady with him. Both of them were detained, I think, for 4 days and released randomly and injured. Boniface was admitted. His wife said, she came on the news and said he was admitted in hospital with injuries. Of course, the humiliation of having our former Chief Justice, former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, you know, being treated like, you know, not very politely by the Tanzanian government. Martha Karua, distinguished lawyer and human rights lawyer, and a number of others. The former Chief Justice, the one who followed Willy Mutunga, that is David Maraga, he was able to get into Tanzania and attend the court hearing of Tundu Lissu, and he was able to go. So, of course, we know we're having, you know, Tanzania has had that issue with activists or people who are, activists, and Uganda too with Besigye. And we know that story with Besigye. His wife, I saw, is making an appeal that for him to be released on bail. I think his health conditions are not very good. We know, of course, that the Kenyan human rights activists and people who stand for human rights have been going, trying to support their brothers and sisters who are in our surrounding nations. Of course, the human rights issues are protected by international law, and even the East African uh, documents. There's a requirement for there to be respect for human rights. So yeah, that's been a heated debate with some some humor and stuff like that, and really we can't really trust what we're seeing online. I prefer to be to withhold judgment on what I'm seeing when it comes to some of those things, because there's a lot of exaggeration and stuff like that. So we're seeing videos where the Kenyans are really going at the Tanzanians, and the Tanzanians asking Kenyans, back off, please, back off, please. There's an issue of Kenyans, Mudavadi apologizing to the Tanzanians for what they perceived as um, disrespectful conduct. The Kenyan human rights group wanting to go to attend court, and Kenyans are asking why should Mudavadi should not have apologized. What was he apologizing for? And of course, that is moot. Courts hearings are done in open court, and so anybody should be allowed to go and hear the case. It's unlikely that even as activists they'd have gone and caused any furore or anything like that. They'd have had to respect the rules of the court and even the country. And so barring them from attending the court case, is something that we can't quite it's not well understood why that decision was made. So we're looking at and seeing a season of sort of intolerance, because even locally we're experiencing the same thing. Here in Kenya, we've had a lot of all the MPs or political class who have stood up and spoken vocally about the executive or the way government is being run, have found themselves in hot soup one way or the other. We had Salasia, we had Natembeya, who were arrested, and charged, taken to court, they were charged. One was charged with hate speech, and the other one was charged with fraud. Initially they said a lot of money, and by the time it got to court, it was much less money. We also have the latest. There's been some incidents of two priests who, in a short period of time, have been unalived in very strange circumstances. One of them, Father Maina of Nyahururu, had invited the former deputy president, Rigathi Gachagua, to their church, and 2 weeks later, he was no longer alive, and he was found, on the roadside. He was injured, he'd been beaten up, obviously been beaten up and all that. Whoever, the Good Samaritan, tried to get him to the hospital, but he didn't make it. The second one also spoke in the one from Kerio Valley, a second one who is called, I'll get his name. He is also a father. He went also, he spoke up, he said before, the president was present in that meeting, and a number of other political dignitaries were present. So he did say he made some comments, and the implication, or it's alleged, that he too got into problems because of what he said. After that, again, he was unalived under strange circumstances. The churches have come out and said, we want to know what is happening. Why are our people, too many, being unalived in very mysterious circumstances? Of course, the most recent one, and the one that's caused a lot of drama, is the George Koimburi case, the Juja MP, where on Sunday from church, he was allegedly abducted and found on Tuesday or Monday in a state of, in a coffee plantation in Kiambu, with, injured and just lying on the ground. He was unable to communicate, and that's what the video showed. He has been he was rushed to, when he was rescued, he was rushed to the hospital, to Karen Hospital, and he was admitted. And from what the opposition MPs, politicians said, they said he was not in a good state. He was suffering physical and emotional trauma. that he had lost his speech, he could not speak. He claimed that he was given something, forced to ingest something that caused damage to his vocal cords. So he was still under observation. This was brought under a lot of ridicule by the Kenya Kwanza MPs, in particular, who made quite some remarks about him, this whole thing being stage managed. The police too have claimed that was a stage managed abduction. So as a result of that, some 4 people have been arrested because of that stage managing of his abduction. So that's where that particular discussion is, and we would need to perhaps interrogate the history of the police. In these cases, we know that after the Gen Z the Gen Z's protests last year, we still have missing people. We still have people who are suffering injuries. We still have families who are traumatized as a result of that. We also have people who we know for sure passed away as a result of what happened during those protests. And so the big question, of course, that comes up is that why should we believe, to be so quick to believe what the security forces are telling us about what happened? Yeah, there's the video of the suspects. Yes, that's true. The picture. Yeah, so as for Kenyans, maybe we should just err on the side of caution, wait for the whole thing to play out, and make our own decisions based on what we've observed, patterns of behavior also, whether we can really trust what we're hearing from this side or the other side. But I think the worst part of it is that I think when somebody claims they've been injured, we should give them the benefit of the doubt. The lack of sympathy we're seeing from people, and even making fun of something like that. And this is somebody's father, this is somebody's brother, this is somebody's son, and you're making fun of something like that. And the worst thing about it is, how will you react if it's actually proved that he was actually kidnapped and forced to ingest something poisonous? And there are incidences like that, because even the one of the priests who was abducted, the Father Minor, he said he was also forced to ingest something that was, he told the people, because he didn't die immediately, the rescuers, he told them that he was forced to ingest something, and he was not able also to talk clearly. So clearly there's a pattern of behavior, and we really need to watch out for that. It's causing a lot of concern. If the political class can be victims to that sort of thing, who are we as Wananchi, really? And is the constitution being respected? Is the rule of law being respected? Are people being handled in the right way by the security forces? The other thing, of course, is there was the recent, also the unaliving of another member of parliament from the Nyanza area, and the person who's accused of having been perpetrated it was actually arrested, and he's been released on bail. And some of the questions that are coming up is that, how quickly are the cases involving politicians being, they're catching people so fast, and yet we've been waiting 11 months to hear about the police being arrested, those who shot these children, those ones who beat the children, these Gen Zs. Nothing has happened to them. And in fact, interestingly, there was a BBC documentary called Blood Parliament. And instead, in my view, instead of taking that documentary as a piece of evidence that needed further analysis by the security forces, instead of looking at it as a useful tool to getting to the bottom of what actually happened, especially around Parliament, because that's where it's centered, where we see 3 individuals, and they have actually been able to pinpoint where those 3 individuals were shot from, and that two were shot by a police officer and one was shot by an army person, and that sort of thing. And instead of investigating that and coming out with that, they went and arrested the filmmakers and have taken them to court. So there's some sort of tendency to silence people. That, and we're finding it's a trend in the East African region. You can see it's happening in Tanzania, and you can see, well, Tundu Lissu is an activist. He speaks up where he has sees things not going right in Tanzania. Besigye, of course, we know his voice also. He speaks up when he doesn't think things are going right. We have the Boniface Mwangi and that crowd also speaking up against things that they don't think are going right. We had that Blood Parliament video, a documentary shot by BBC, which was banned. But by the time it was banned and removed on air, it had, done the rounds on YouTube. People had seen it, but it was supposed to be officially launched and aired, but that they stopped it. Yeah, that's it. It's a very interesting video, and they've used like forensic,
sometimes
method.
To catch a killer in a
Yeah, that's it. They've used forensic videos and methods to really pin individuals to actually, where the shot came from, to shoot certain people. And they were able to pick up 3, and actually showed quite an interesting picture of what actually happened outside Parliament. So, that's what we're seeing. And then, of course, just to add to the intention to sort of suppress people's speaking. In fact, one of the jokes was, in Kenya, we have freedom of expression, but not freedom after expression. So you can express yourself, but after you've expressed yourself, you could face the music. And in fact, there's a bill, an amendment to the Kenya Information Communication Act. There's an amendment, Bill 2025, which has been brought by the Aldai MP, which is seeking to allow the security forces access to data information. And of course, it's being opposed because it will give them unfettered access to information, data information, and that infringes not just rights to privacy under the Constitution, but also the Data Protection Act. So you can see there's an attempt here to muzzle people's freedom of speech, people's constitutional rights to express themselves and to show when they are not pleased with something and to express it in accordance with the Constitution. Even picketing and protests are allowed. Freedom of assembly allowed under the Constitution. So some of these are some of the things that have been happening on the political side. You talked also about Ruto's apology and who is he apologizing to and why. So, and Museveni. So, in this prayer breakfast,
Yeah,
which again
because
was
it's kind of strange that they're apologizing suddenly. It is weird.
Yeah, it was almost a year ago for Ruto. In fact, it's almost a year because he was apologizing for excess use of power by the during the Gen Z process, and he was addressing the Gen Zs who were in that national prayer breakfast, and the apology has not been accepted well. It's not been received well. Some of them said, okay, we accept your apology, but there are conditions. The conditions are that the grievances that we raise that Gen Z need to be addressed. We need to show good faith towards that. Secondly, is all those people, you need to investigate who is responsible for the killings and for the beatings and for the excessive conduct during the Gen Z protests. Those guys need to be brought before the law. They have to face a due process. There's been no real move. That apology was not accompanied by that type of show of good faith to show, look, we're going to try and we're going to address the issues that you've raised, They're going to bring those people who were responsible for the killings and the injuries and of the Gen Zs to face due process. Nothing like that was made. So it's not been received well by the Gen Zs, by civil society, or even opposition parties. They're saying this is just something that was done to sort of preempt, maybe, we're around budget time again, preempt, people reacting in a volatile manner. And we know Kenyans are quite capable of doing that. And we also know that the Gen Zs, in their sheer numbers, are also good at doing what we call peaceful protests. They went out actually last year, and they went out even we've had them out on the streets saying no to femicide, and they've also been, even something like saying no to femicide. The protesters, and they're peaceful protesters, have been subjected to excessive force and violence, and even beating. They were being beaten and charged by the police. And so it's really unfortunate that we're getting to that space where people are not able to express themselves, notwithstanding the fact that we have a constitution which allows us to express ourselves, which allows us to gather and protest, which allows us to participate in decisions that affect us as a nation. So these are, really, really sad things. The other thing you mentioned was about the new parties that are up. Of course, we have Gachagwa's DCP, we have PLP of Martha Karua, and then we have Okia Mtata. Yeah, we've had those. There's, talk about what has accompanied.
How many political parties do we really have? It's kind of confusing. There are so many, because one minute we're hearing about Gachagua and his party, and they're saying that they've taken the whole of Western Kenya. And then now we also hear that there's Okia Mtata and his party, and he has potential to take the entire Kenya. It's like Kenya is being taken by all parties. The only one person I haven't heard from is poor Martha Karua. I haven't heard much from her party. Well, I mean, people saying that. I haven't really heard people saying anything. Do you think Kenyans are ready for a woman president in the first place? And then, oh yes, and then there's Matiang'i. Matiang'i apparently has also taken the entire country, and if he was going to run, he was going to win the election. Yeah. So the question is, where are we going in this country? Where are we going? Our Kenya. Oh yes, and then there's of course Ruto himself, who will definitely come back, for the next 5 years. He's not going to be a one-term president. This is according to what we hear from the news, yeah? But we're all confused. We're all confused, Susan. So what's going on? And by the way, thank you so much. I'm really enjoying your update. It's very interesting. For those of you who have joined us, Veronica Johnson is in there. Welcome, Veronica. We see you. For those of you guys, I see one person coming in, leaving, coming in, leaving. We are a little bit late. It will be recorded. So you can join us now. If you happen to be like in the US, you can definitely join us at this time. This is a good time. But if you're in Kenya, I know right now it's after midnight, it's late, but it is a Friday. If you'd like to join our show, we always have some very interesting topics. We are on a little bit late tonight, but we decided better late than never, guys. Better late than never. We have to talk. Otherwise, there's too many things competing for our time, yeah? Okay, Karibuni. Susan, continue, please. Yeah, tell us. Susan is explaining to us. She's giving us an update of what's been going on what's going on politically and socially in the Kenyan scene. And right now, we're talking about the political parties, and they're preparing for the next general elections in 2027 already. They're gone full swing. Go ahead.
Yeah. There's a lot of alignment and realignment that we're seeing. Of course, the campaigns have started early. We're seeing a movement towards having like a coalition of parties. I think the politics of our nation is not one single party can manage, you have to be a coalition of parties to be able to manage to take the seat. You need the support of a coalition of parties. So I'm seeing it's likely there will be a coalition. And what I've heard some of the political class saying is that, for instance, the opposition or those who there'll be, it's likely that there'll be a coalition of parties standing against the Kenya Kwanza coalition. It was still called Kenya Kwanza. We know there's a tendency for names to keep changing every election, and groupings and clusterings to keep changing. So that's what we're likely to see. Even Matiang'i has been associated with Gachagwa's DCP. Okia Mtata, even though he may stand independently, I'm sure he'll try to get into a coalition with other parties, because not the way our politics is structured, it's not possible for one party just to to get that power. So they've been very vocal, all of them. Martha Karua, of course, has been talking about, they have been raising red flags about what they perceive to be the misdeeds or missteps by the Kenya Kwanza government, or the broad-based government, because we now have it being broad-based with ODM coming into government. We've seen a lot of other individuals joining government to help govern it, and to govern this nation. We've had, for instance, we've had members from ODM. We've also had members from other parties coming in. With the last three were MPs, the last three CSs who were brought in were from the Mount Kenya region. But before that, the first lot that were brought in were from ODM. So there's been an attempt to have what they're calling the broad-based government. And, of course, as Kenyans, we need to really understand what's happening. It looks like our nation, midterm, somewhere along the line, when things don't go really well, they start regrouping again. It's been a pattern of behavior, but most of these changes are politically driven. Whereas this time, I was listening to a political analyst who was saying it is people-driven. It's not being driven by the political class. It's people-driven. That Gen Z is going out and say, look, our economy is not this way, protests on the street and stuff like that. And and a lot of things are not making Kenyans happy. The health system is just collapsing. The doctors in 3 counties have gone on strike. Kiambu, Kakamega, and Samburu, they have gone on strike. They're not treating patients. There's a machine, radiotherapy machine in Kenyatta Hospital, which is broken. So the patients cannot receive the treatment that they need to get. There is the universal healthcare workers are on the streets. They are on the streets. They're not healthcare coverage workers are on the streets. They're not working. We have the education sector, where there was a big gap, where the budget that had been submitted to the Education Committee in National Assembly did not have a line to pay for examinations. And they said, we are not passing this. You cannot not pay for examinations. Who is supposed to pay for examinations? It's the country that's supposed to pay for examinations. So it was sent back. They refused to sign it, came back, and they were told, you have to look for 59 billion or something like 59 million for the examination fees. You have to look for it. You can't expect parents to pay for examination fees. And during during Kibaki's time, there was free education. During Uhuru's time, 2015 or thereabouts, he waived examination fees. That means the government's supposed to pay for them, right? So now, when you remove that budget line, and the excuse that the CS was giving, because they had to come into and face the Education Committee in National Assembly, was that it was decided to remove it in a meeting. That that examination fees is as a budget line was removed completely and was completely ridiculous. Those examination fees, there's also quality assurance, that was removed. There was no budget for that either. And it was just made a mockery of the education system. So of course they were told you have to look for this money, reallocate it, that you must pay, the government must pay for examination fees. Yeah, you're going to say something?
I just heard, yeah, because I think I heard the CS for education. He was being grilled. I don't know whether it's the CS for education or who was being grilled in the minutes in the docket, and he said
Yeah.
actually it was a product. I mean, how did they were asked how did you arrive at the conclusion that you should scrap the examination fee altogether? I mean,
Yeah.
not the examination fee, and that parents should
Yeah.
just pay it. They said, well, we were reconciling things. When we reconciled, we realized that this one was too much. this one is not necessary. We don't need to fund this one. So they were being asked, so if you're not funding that, then what are you funding? You know, it's like not knowing what is important, not being able to
It's just
prioritize. Yeah.
so ridiculous. It was so,
Actually, President Ruto has been accused of having the most inept group of most inept. I don't know whether they're educated. Some of them are quite educated, but it seems to
no,
me
yeah.
that they're not performing very well. And the question is why? What is the problem with their performance? Some of them are actually truly educated. Some of them we even know in person, and they're educated. But why is it that they're unable to perform? They need to come up and tell us what is stopping them from performing. Because is it that they always have to have a green light from their boss? Is it that they're being micromanaged so they cannot actually perform? Is it that they don't have the budget? The money is there, but the budget is not being released by Treasury? Is it that they're just worried about the fact that there may be a one-term presidency, and so they'd rather just be in good books with their boss and just let things slide? Or is it because they're being offered, or it's not a priority? Things like education are no longer a priority. That now there are other things that are making them more money. Like there's a lot of interest in the country. For example, there's a lot of internationals who are moving in. Yeah, they want to come in the country. They want land. They want minerals. They want assets. They want our assets. And some people are ready to compromise and give them the assets. And so, for example, if somebody was to say, I want to buy this river, I want to buy this ocean, I want to buy this port, yeah, and I'll give you a kickback of this amount of money. Why would I be bothered if I'm in the education ministry, or if I'm in, for example, environmental industry? Why would I care whether or not we have litter on the beach, or whether or not there's overfishing, or whether or not there's toxic waste spill or anything? If I can make actually more money by offering a piece of the beach to a big multinational organization that wants to come and establish a big hotel, why would I care about my people? I think many people are being compromised because Kenya is a hot cake right now. Actually, if you notice, Kenya is in the news for all the wrong reasons. So many people, okay, the right ones as well. If you go to social media, everybody's there with a phone. Oh, I'm in Kenya. I didn't know that Kenya was such a lovely country. Oh my goodness, Oh, Kenyan grocery stores have got such wonderful food. Oh, the people of Kenya are so lovely. Oh, this is the beauty capital of Africa. If you want to have your hair done, I went to Botswana and nobody could do my hair. But in Kenya, the best hairdressers in Kenya. Oh, there's electricity 24/7. They don't take your light. They don't take your light. That's the Nigerians. They said, in this country, I would rather sit on a piki. I'd rather sit on a keke, or they call it boda. I'd rather sit on a boda and get to town. It's nothing like being in Lagos. Kenya is just a comfortable place to be. Yeah. That's what the Nigerians are telling us, that you guys are scared of getting onto bodas, onto the motorbikes. But for them, they do that in Lagos. For Kenya, it's just like the cleanest, neatest city they've ever seen. Kenyans are so friendly. You can do business here. No, they don't even care who you are. They're not even paying attention to you. So Kenya is in the news. Everybody wants to come to Kenya. Anybody who wants to have views on social media, all they have to do is say something nice about Kenya. What I learned about the 10 things I learned about surviving in Kenya. Okay. 5 things you must do before you move to Kenya. So already social media platforms are marketing on behalf of the government. So the tourism industry actually should just close shop and give all their money to social media people. You know, all the African Americans who are busy talking about Kenya, all the Kenyans who are busy marketing Kenya, including myself. Actually, we are the Ministry of Tourism in action. Yeah. So I think what is happening is there must be a scramble for, not a scramble for Africa, but a scramble for Kenya right now. And everybody wants a piece of the pie. Yeah, everybody wants a piece of the pie. People want land, they want businesses, they want they want partnerships, they want help, they want to come and rent. And our politicians are literally compromised. They don't know what to do. You know, they don't know whether they should be sending Kenyans abroad to go to work. They don't know whether they should be building more multi-story buildings so that they can house all these people coming from all over the world. They don't know whether they should be, you know, there's so many ways to make money in Kenya right now. And by the way, I also saw on one of the analyst platforms, I'm sorry to cut you short, that there is money being given away by the government to try and get certain people from maybe central Kenya on board. There's a lot of people who are just being told, go and form a group, we're going to give you 10 million shillings, you know? But what's happening is that if they print, if the rumors are that they may be printing money, what that's going to do is mess up inflation. And before you know it, we're going to see a situation like what we saw when the Somalis came here a long time ago. I think a lot of the Gen X's the Gen Z's would not know this. It would be us, the Gen X's, who know. When the Somalis first came, they used to come with actually baskets full of money, cash. Yeah, they would change all their money and put it in big baskets and walk around, and they were wearing these shukas. They were not even, they're either wearing their white kanzus or they're wearing shukas and they're walking around with their sticks. I'm telling you, the Kenyan economy right now, the Kenya shilling is trading at 170 shillings to the pound. I was literally shocked to discover that. Really shocked. I was transferring a bit of money to somebody in Kenya from the UK, and I was shocked to see that the Kenya shilling is trading on 170. I have never seen it trade at such a rate in my life. So right now, the banks are doing what they can to try and give loans to Kenyans and stuff. So the question is, back to your politics, is why are they not performing? And some of these guys are educated. What's the problem?
So I wanted to just correct about the money that they've told the National Assembly Committee on Education has told them the Treasury to allocate 5.9 billion for exams. They need to do it, and said they're not passing that. They're not making a report until that's done, because there's no way you can have an education system and the students need to be examined and you cannot expect them to pay for that, especially since it has been the trend, you know. I remember one of the comments was that Badi saying, that's the CS for Treasury, saying it's not sustainable for them to pay for the examination. They basically don't have money. And let me tell you, I even came across a video where, you know, they have disbursed the money, what they're calling capitation monies to the schools. One school in Nyanza got, listen to this, 164 shillings. 164 shillings. Another school got 200 shillings.
I heard that one school got 4,000 bob. Are you telling me there are others who are getting in the hundreds?
164 and the other one got 200 shillings.
Sorry, I don't know whether to laugh or cry. These guys, you know what
and he couldn't believe it.
That means that they have refused to capitate. Actually, what they're saying is that exams are not going to be done. Didn't they say that the exams are not going to be done? You guys who are watching out there, our live show, we're not just talking to each other here with Susan. Welcome to the show. We can see your eyes there. Hello. Karibuni to the show. It's a little bit late, but if you happen to be in Kenya, this is African Queen Mo and Susan. We are welcoming you to the show. Thank you for watching. And right now we're talking about capitation or decapitation of schools, literally. The decapitation of
Yeah,
schools money.
supposed to be for
And
running.
I heard that the children are not going to take it, they're not going to do exams. Is that true?
No, they're supposed to. You know, now
That they're
they've
going
been
to
told to
repeat
allocate 5.9.
Ah,
No, they've been told to allocate it because the children's exams need to be paid for, and for the CS Treasury to say it's unsustainable. I don't know whether they're living. They know not every Kenyan can afford to pay for the examination fees. So it's really bad. So they were told, you must get 5.9 billion, get it, look for it, and you need to get it from other line items and make sure that it's made available because it's a
okay.
priority. You can't get children to go to school and then they cannot be examined because they found it so ridiculous. And it was actually quite a shameful thing. When you're
Yeah.
talking about exploitation, I came across an article showing that in Lamu, they want to mine coal, and they
That has been in the cards for a long time, and they were not allowed to because of
the
climate change.
locals were, yeah, the locals were up in arms. It's come back again recently. They were up in arms on the streets just this week, I think earlier this week, protesting and saying, no, we're not going to allow the coal mining. Of course, we know the effects of coal mining on the environment, the environmental impact, exposure of children and young people to to hazardous materials and noxious things that can cause them health concerns and all that. Of course, the effluents, the wastage, the disposal can be another problem. The damage, because apparently to do coal mining you have to clear large spaces. So of course, when you're clearing the space, you're exposing the soil to the effects of erosion and all that. So there are very many negative effects of doing it. And apparently Lamu is a heritage site, is a national heritage site. So it should be protected against some of these, really toxic development initiatives, So that's what they're doing. And that is just one story. I saw something about gold mining in Western Kenya. I don't know how far that is going. And of course, you have to make sure you manage the effluents. You have to protect the environment, even as we do those things, because they affect so many things, including the climate. If you damage the quality of the soil, you damage the quality of the food, you damage the quality of the water, you damage the health of the people, even the animals, and you just have a whole domino effect. So that's what's happening. Something interesting again that I came across was in the courts. There's a KU student who sued. She did not graduate in 2013 because of missing marks. And she sued, she went to court, and she was awarded 850,000. So the court recognized that she was prejudiced by the behavior of the professor who's supposed to have availed those marks. She was sent actually on a ring of roses, literally, from the story I read in the newspaper. And eventually she was awarded 850,000. So university students, there's the precedent where you can get your marks. The universities, the lecturers must give you your marks. They don't give you your marks, you can sue them. You can see somebody has got 850,000. But if you're talking about 2013 and she's not graduated since 2013, that
Mm-hmm.
loss is great. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that loss is great. Then there's another case.
Very sad.
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
mm. There's
Mm-hmm.
another case in the courts where there are two petitions, actually, constitutional petitions regarding the IEBC nominees, all 7 of them. And they were seeking to stop the vetting by the National Assembly of the 7 nominees. So 2 petitions. One said that among other arguments was that there was a late entry on the short list. And that particular late entry into the short list was one of the people who was selected as, fit to be vetted by the National Assembly. The other said that the process was not done well. The vetting was not done well. It wasn't inclusive enough, and stuff like that. So there are two cases. But basically, what the judge said is that yes, the National Assembly, you can, the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee of the National Assembly, you can vet, but that's all. They cannot be gazetted until the case is heard, because according to the judge, it raised some serious constitutional issues. So, for instance, if people were shortlisted, somebody was not on the shortlist originally, but then was added through a process which was different from what was used to shortlist, and that same person is appearing now as one of the nominees. I don't know. Can you see the list of the nominees? There's a list of 7 of them. Yeah. So that caused some tensions, but they've been allowed to vet, and they're vetting tomorrow. They're going to vet all 7 of them tomorrow, but they're not allowed to gazette that. And then, of course, there's the issue also of the Conflict of Interest Bill 2025. Remember, in the last State of the Nation address, the president said that that Conflict of Interest Bill needs to be expedited. He wants to see it in force. So they did it, and then it went to the president, and it was sent back to the Senate with a memorandum, and told them to strengthen the provisions to ensure that that it is stronger to prevent abuse of office and abuse to ensure that there's no breach of the Constitution, and it's in line with the requirements for leadership, integrity of leaders, and all that. So basically, this particular, I thought it was important for me to just raise some issues regarding that. What happened when it was sent back? Usually, the Senate has 14 days to fix the problem and then send it back to the president. They've extended the days to 45. This particular bill, the Conflict of Interest Bill, has not been a favorite of the political class, of our parliamentarians. Reason being that it is supposed to stop them from being able to be contractors in their own constituencies, being beneficiaries of funds, and running it like a business. Basically, there has to be some difference between them and the money. So, for instance, some of the things it does, it prohibits the use of public position to influence decisions for personal gain, and requires disclosure of potential conflicts. So basically, it outlines public officers' responsibilities, disclosure of interest, they must say, prohibits self-dealing. This is particularly the one. So, for instance, the MP cannot get a contract for himself in his constituency. It requires mandatory declaration of interest. When you have an interest in something, you have to be able to state that. If you followed Rigathi Gachagwa's trial case in the impeachment case, they tried to imply that he was interested in some cases, and he used his position as a DP to try and get particular jobs. I'm just giving that as one of the more recent examples we might have interacted with as Kenyans. Well, they were not able to prove that, but that's one of the things they tried to do. So that is what we call requiring mandatory declaration of interest. Then, on any issues that are being debated for legislation, you must declare your interest in that matter, because you may make rulings or decisions which are favorable to you, because you don't want to be locked out of doing whatever it is you want to do.
Mhm.
Then the other thing is they're supposed to maintain a public register of conflicts. We know that is difficult, and it's supposed to be accessible for people to see. And then the ethics and assets declarations. This is for public and state officers. And then there are specific provisions for judges. They must recuse themselves in cases where impartiality may be questioned, or where there's personal interest, family ties, or something else. So some examples of where the judges were asked to recuse themselves. You remember Rigathi Gachagua's case, they were asked to recuse themselves because the applicants, that is Rigathi's advocates, said that the particular lawyers, or the not lawyers, the judges, had certain interests or certain connections with the opposing side, and so they asked them to recuse themselves, but they said no. The legal consequences of breach of this conflict of interest act would be disciplinary action, removal from office, or even criminal prosecution. So the reason why this particular bill was sent back to Parliament in April 25 was that it requires strengthening of provisions on transparency and enforcement to align with the Constitution. Probably they are grappling with that, but I believe they're not in a hurry as members of Parliament to pass it, because it will separate them from their source of income. A lot of them have benefited. They are contracting with themselves. They're using that money to get contracts that goes to the constituencies. They're using it to benefit themselves, which is really, really unfortunate. The big case again is the one of the public seal, and it was a very heated debate. The public seal is a national emblem, and it's a seal that is used to bind Kenya, the nation, to contractual obligations. The Constitution puts that seal into the custody of the Attorney General. But the government spokesman, Mr. Mwaura, made a statement and said that the public seal was in the custody of the head of public service, HOPS. And but the Constitution says otherwise, and the Attorney General Act says otherwise. It says that the person who should have the public seal is actually the Attorney General and not the head of public service. So he corrected himself later and said, no, it's with the Attorney General. Interestingly,
Yeah.
yeah. Interestingly, the Attorney General.
I can present that video of that Mr. Mwaura talking about it. You want me to play it? And then you can.
Yeah,
you can play it.
Oh God.
Yani, Kenya, I give up. Wa. There's a word that we use in Kenya, and it's just wa. Okay, let me play this now. Can you guys see it? Hope so.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Where is the government seal right now?
When you look at the law is very clear. The seal under the head of public service, that is the law. It was passed recently because of the executioning. The role of the head of public service is to execute the orders of the president. That is why even my office is under the executive office of the president, chief of staff and the head of public service. Next question.
That is to say the AG doesn't hold the government seal.
The new law is that the head of public service is the one who has the public seal.
But was it communicated to Kenyans? Are the citizens aware that the government seal left the AG's office to head of public service?
Ronnie Reagan, that is a process that went through Parliament. The law was passed. There was public participation.
When was that?
Sometimes last year. So let us maintain that way. You can confirm with the Hansard. You can confirm with the proceedings of public participation. And there's nothing wrong with that, for your information.
So what happens to AG?
So therefore, the AG remains with his powers as the principal legal advisor of the president. But the seal of the president, of the government, is within the executive office of the president. Let's go.
Mmesema nifupishe maswali. Where is the government seal right now?
Sorry.
Yeah, good enough. Me, Mimi in Kenya. Yeah, I'm telling you the truth. It is, 1,000 ways to die. 1,000 ways to cry. Ooh.
You
Yani,
know
they
that
just take the seal and just
Yeah.
dump it in some. And when did it happen? Last year, sometime. How were
Oh,
Kenyans
no.
involved? There was public participation.
I
That's
know.
why
I know.
in public. What's going on? What is
What
going
is
on? And 1
what
minute, I
is
want to say something about
yeah.
Sally. Sally,
Yeah.
Sally says it reaches a point where you can only stare dumbfounded on all the things going on. I agree, Sally. This is horrific. I mean, this is beyond Haya. No, how can you even sleep? No wonder you're up at this time, because really sincerely, we're looking at after midnight. It's like midnight, and you're awake. Go and grab your coffee. You're going to be up all night. We are cashering here on YouTube and wherever. Others are cashering in church, let them pray, but the rest of us are cashering here because this is mbaya. This is serious. I mean, a guy can come on there, a whole government official, and stand there and tell us that the Attorney General literally has been stripped of their powers. And probably the Attorney General has no idea themselves what happened to the seal. Really?
No, what happened
Be
is that
quiet.
they tried to change the law and take the seal so that the seal could be given to the head of public service. But this is embedded in the constitution that it is the Attorney General who is the keeper of that seal, is the one who has custody. Reason being that as the principal legal officer, when there's any document to be signed, he's the one to come with that seal, and his signature is also required on that document. So
But
you
how
know the
is
way it comes.
he going with what to seal? If he doesn't come with the seal, what does he come with?
No,
So
but
they're changing the constitution. When you say you change the law, they change the constitution.
they
Is that what
can't do it that way. They wanted to. No, they wanted to, but it didn't pass. It didn't pass. So this Maura guy, what's even more ridiculous about it? He's the government spokesperson. He doesn't even know the current status of that situation. In fact, you shouldn't even have tried to answer that question. You should have said, I need to check. Because that particular motion to change the custodian of the seal to the head of public service was shut down. So it's not, so it's still with the Attorney General. The interesting thing about this whole thing is that later on he came back on another clip. I'm sure if you may find it if you look for it, where he said, no. Actually, the public seal is with the Attorney General. That is the Constitution. That's where it's supposed to be. And you can hear how authoritatively he was speaking there, almost insulting and belittling Reagan, as he called him, whoever he was talking to. That's the law, and there's nothing wrong with that. And his job is to execute the work of the executive. I mean, the president and stuff like that. And I really think these guys need to go back to school and really understand what their jobs mean. As an officer, his job is to he has a responsibility to the nation. So when he's just saying that his job is to do this and his job is to do that, he seems not to really understand what his role is as the government spokesman. And who's paying him? It is us. It's the Kenyans who are paying him. Yeah, so that whole debate was just a complete gaffe and debacle. It showed, like you mentioned earlier, Queen Mo, about the standard and quality of the people who are in office. Some of these offices are occupied by people who shouldn't be holding those offices, because that was such a big, big gap for him to make. The Constitution cannot be amended on a whim. There are procedures and processes which must be followed, and there are reasons why it's difficult to amend the Constitution. because we don't want a situation where any government can come in and start changing the constitution. We remember our previous constitutions, that what was happening. They kept changing them. It was much easier then to change than it is now.
Yeah. Okay. You asked me to look for that video. I found it. Would you like to watch it?
the way where he is, yeah. It's
Okay,
just I think this guy's a cartoon.
Here. He's here.
He's a cartoon.
The head of public service is a #1 public servant in this country. And he has the seal of the president.
1 week later,
The public seal is actually under the custody of the Attorney General as Article 9 of the Constitution. The head of public service is the #1 public servant in this country. And he has the seal of the president. He is the one who executes that which the president wants to be done. He helps to run the government on a daily basis. And so therefore, people who are resisting change in state corporations, in ministries, departments, and agencies are not amused, because for the first time, we are seeing a head of public service who is resolute, who is determined to weed out corruption, and there are those who are resisting change when it comes to issues to do with e-procurement. If we are able to do...
You know, these guys were accusing Koimburi of acting. This guy is acting. Do you think he really believes what he's saying?
This is what I was asking you. These are educated people. Why do they allow themselves to look so ridiculous? It's like I'm watching that program, Ridiculous. Really. It's professional. Do they know that they're not going to always be in government? One day they need, I mean, you know, the internet doesn't forget before you go and make a fool of yourself.
Yeah.
They're not alone, by the way. I've been seeing the same kind of grilling happening in the US, by the way, with the US Senate. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been
Yes. They're being asked questions. They're being asked a lot of questions. Like, you know, when, for example, the tariffs were just all of a sudden removed by President Trump. Yeah. His representative, the WTF, was saying that he was, you know, he was in a private conversation with, and he could not reveal what he was discussing with the president. And he was asked, you know, you guys are you manipulating? Is this fiscal manipulation? Economic manipulation? You know, there's nothing like a strategy there. It's manipulation. And that's manipulating people's taxes, people's retirement benefits, you know? It's the same thing. These guys are messing up. Politicians are so dangerous. They're so dangerous for the regular human people. In fact, I've been seeing some questions, people asking, can we operate without politicians? How about having a country with no politicians at all? Yeah, we just have one leader and that's it. Or we have a council of elders like we used to have. You know, when we, long ago, we used to have councils in different corners, in different areas. Why do we have to have these politicians? They're just busy, you know, blood sucking, literally taking from people and coming up with laws in the middle of nowhere. People who don't even know what their colleagues are supposed to be doing. Now, for example, Isaac Mwaura, when he makes those statements about the Attorney General, and then now they actually go and have lunch together. What do you think going on between those two people?
You know what is interesting about that?
Trying to make my position obsolete, is that it? Is that it?
You know what? In fact, it's interesting you should say that, because one political analyst said, you know, his analysis of the situation, in fact, I think it was Senator Onyonka, he said, this is telling me that they don't respect the office of the Attorney General. If the seal has moved to the head of public service, that's what it means. That's what he said. Now he was giving a political impression of the situation. That the Attorney General herself came out, Dorcas Oduor, recently. I mean, I just saw the video, I think yesterday or something like that. And she said, no. The public seal is with the Attorney General. That's where it's supposed to be. The Constitution requires that we have the custody of it. And one thing for sure, any document that is going to be signed, that is going to bind Kenya, needs that public seal and the signature of the Attorney General. Yeah, because as the principal legal officer, it needs his signature. And you know, and I had the chair of the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, National Assembly. Of course, he's a Kenya Kwanza stalwart. being put on the spot about that, and he started bringing a lot of confusion. He was told, no, answer the question, who is supposed to have the public seal? And it also was connected to issues relating to, can the executive obtain finances or money or bind Kenya in loans without Parliament knowing? That was a big question that came out, because we're saying, can it happen? Can they make borrowings and bind us as a nation without Kenya knowing? And then there was the issue of Muturi, who was the previous Attorney General, said one of the things that he got into conflict with was he refused to seal some agreements because he said they were illegal. He refused to participate in that, and he didn't seal them. So this move, this is my impression of it, my opinion, or just tracking the stories. We're trying to put two and two together, is that because perhaps the Attorney General at some point, because they have that authority, they are the ones to seal that document. After they've read it and seen this is okay for Kenya to sign this, they're supposed to seal it and all that. Now, if that Attorney General is not agreeing, say, with the executive, and refusing to sign that thing, it'd be difficult for the executive to proceed. So in order for them to find somebody who's more malleable and agreeable to what they're doing and not to ask many questions, then you take the seal and give it to somebody who's under the executive. That's where was the intention of that particular amendment, but of course which was shot down. And there's a reason why the Constitution separated those offices, because the Attorney General's office is a separate office. It's a separate office. It's an independent office. It's a constitutional office.
Okay,
So,
Susan. Now I understand the legalities of it, but my question also for you is, how long was the seal away from the Attorney General, and what happened in between?
No, in fact, they're saying, Odwar is saying,
what agreements were made, what was sold, what was there was a rumor that money was printed or something like that, while the seal was away from the Attorney General's office and they had no powers, even if it was temporary, then something like money was printed, because for the next elections. Or these are just rumors. I'm not saying that they are true. The question is, have you heard what happened in between then, and how long was the seal away? And are those agreements which was signed through the public service, was it public service officers, public service commission, is it
head of public service,
head of public service office, by the head of public service, those documents that were signed when the seal was there with him, I guess those documents are still legal?
No. No, if anything, if the Attorney General has not signed those documents, if he has not appended his signature, it can't be binding on the nation. And that is the reason why he's called the principal legal officer. The seal is there, he brings the seal, but his signature must be one of the signatures on that document.
And what if his signature was forged, but the seal is there?
Of course, the legal point of that. You forge the document. If you forge a signature, that invalidates the document itself. But the question is, we're not sure. There's just speculation. But I think if you find a journalist asking where is the public seal, that means they must have. It's possible, we can say there's no smoke without fire, and this is highly speculative. Is that? According to Dorcas, who is the Attorney General, the seal has always been with the Attorney General. It has never left the custody of the Attorney General. So the head, although there was an intention for it to move, it never there was no law to support. There was no legal framework to support that happening. Not to mention it is unconstitutional. So they cannot really use that seal in the absence of the Attorney General. So if any documents have been signed purportedly without the seal and without the signature of the Attorney General, they cannot bind us as Kenyans. That would be the law. That would be the law. So I did see, I was not able to listen to it, but I saw a clip where the former Chief Justice, David Maraga, was mentioning that there are a number of documents that have been improperly executed. And I can't remember how many there were that have not been executed in the correct way, that is binding Kenyans. So definitely there's need for further investigation on some of these issues, because we're already struggling with debt. We're already struggling with debt. They want to continue to tax us. Understand? I was listening to a clip was saying that the Treasury CS Mbadi was saying that there'll be no let up on taxation for Kenyans until about 2034, because of how much debt we're in. So they're trying to recover money by taxing us. And one thing that I understand is likely to happen with this new finance bill is there'll be VAT on everything. And one thing I know about VAT is not everybody claims VAT. In fact, I think the number of people who actually do claim VAT in this country is very minimal, which means that all the VATs that we pay that is uncollected is being utilized by government, So there's a lot of, every time you go to the supermarket, every time you buy something, there's some of the items are vatable. And if you don't do what you call the set off, you never claim it, you never set it off, then where does that money go? And to even get back your VAT, supposing you wanted to get back your VAT, that process is so difficult. They'll come and insist on auditing your books for 6 months. I don't know what, very intrusive process. So it's so problematic. I think that most Kenyans would rather not engage. So you just leave that issue. Then it adds up, because if, say, for instance, you go to the shop and you check your VAT, how much VAT you paid, say it's 1,200. Somebody else. There are so many people who have gone to their shops and their
Just
VAT
imagine.
is something like that. And all that money, when we're talking about maybe in the space of 1 hour, there are so much money will never be collected by anybody or claimed or set off, so that money remains with the government. So the reason I believe, I'm not sure whether I'm right on this, but if you start putting VAT on all items, it means there's going to be a lot of money we are paying, which will never be collected by anybody. And because it's not collected, yeah, it's like an indirect taxation. So these are some of the things that
it's double tax. It's double tax all the way. Double tax, yeah, because you're being taxed. Your income is being taxed already. If you're a manufacturer, you're being taxed for everything that you're importing. Yeah, you're being taxed even on the electricity that you're using and everything.
Water, electricity, water. There's VAT on all those.
Yes,
electricity, water, fuel, petrol,
exactly.
everything.
All your licenses. I tell you, doing business in Kenya is not for the faint-hearted. It's really not for the faint-hearted. And then if you're running a daily business, every day you're being taxed indirectly because you're paying parking fees. You're also paying people not to steal your car or mirror. So you're paying the watchman you're actually paying him not to steal from you. At the same time, before you even get to the next point, there's a beggar on the road. You still have to give them something. Literally, we're bleeding. All of us are just bleeding money everywhere. And then you look at the end of the day and you wonder, how come you don't have any money? Yeah. And at the same time, I don't really know. I don't know. And at the same time, there's also dumping of goods in the market from China and all that, And so there's manufacturers also having a really hard time because of this dumping of goods, in the country. Yes, it's good for the consumer because, we have choices, but for the businesses, it's not good for them. There's another issue, Susan, I didn't mention, but also there's the issue of visas, people not being issued visas. And I got something from a friend of mine, actually Sally, she's actually on here. I don't know whether she fell asleep, but she sent me something about something called visa apartheid. Visa apartheid is This, I don't know whether you can see it. I don't think you can. It's too, no, yeah, I think you can see it, kind of.
Oh, okay. I can see something. I can't
These
read
are
the rest,
part-
but I can see what's in big. Yeah,
Yeah,
I can
these
see
are,
what's in capital letters. I can't
yes.
read the rest.
So the visa apartheid is, it says how Europe's gatekeeping machinery bleeds Africa of dignity and wealth. It talks about the cost of visas in 2024 last year. Nigeria, the visas that were paid in euro, okay, this is in euro, is 12.5 million euro was paid by Nigerians for visas,
Mhm.
of
Yeah.
which 60% of that money, of that 12.5 million, 60% was rejected.
Mhm.
The estimated loss is 7.5 million euro just in 2024 alone. And that money, goes directly to, the embassies. So Ghana, 8.1 million is the next one. 55% visa rejection, loss of 4.5 million euro. Uganda, 3.2 million euro, 48%. Almost literally, it's either half or above half. 1.5 million euro lost in visa applications, in visa application fees. Kenya, 6.5 million euro was the visas paid. 6.5 million, which is about half of Nigeria, which makes sense because, if you look at the population. But our visas that were rejected was high, 52%. Over half of the visas in Kenya were rejected. We were bleeding, okay? We're bleeding more than Uganda. We're bleeding 3.6 million euro. South Africa, 4.3 million euro, visas rejected 45%, 1.5 million. So if you add it all up, the total is the visa fees that was paid in totality, all these countries, Nigeria, Ghana, Uganda, Kenya, South Africa, those are only 5 countries, 60 million euro in 2024, out of which, the estimated loss was 35 million euro. So 60 million euro paid for visa fees and 35 million euro remains in those countries. What do you call that? Yeah, so they're saying that this is economic exploitation. Millions is lost by the poorest continent. Well, that's what the dignity at the border, the issue of dignity. Africans have to prove not just intent, but innocence of poverty, crime, and fraud. And then there's the algorithmic discrimination. Many embassies use opaque automated systems to process applications with built-in biases against Africans. And then there's a diplomatic hypocrisy. Europe demands open markets from Africa while closing its own borders to African human capital. And not just human capital, but even our goods. Yes. So the thing is that we are actually facing, we are bleeding our country. So you just imagine, Kenyans are being taxed. Yeah. Right now, Kenyans are facing taxes. Meanwhile, we are losing 3.6 million euro. 3.6 million euro is times how much? Yeah. 1 euro is how much in Kenya shillings? We're probably talking like about, if 1 euro is like about 100 and maybe 130.
Yeah, it's 130. Yeah,
Is
it's
it
about that.
130? So 130 times 3. 130
Yeah.
times 3 is 390. Yeah? 390. So is this 390 million Kenya shillings? Almost half a billion.
But interestingly, it's more
Almost
expensive
half
to
a billion.
buy.
Over a quarter billion. Almost half a billion we're losing because of visa fee rejections. Why don't they give the money back? Why don't they give the money back? Why don't they give a proportion of the money back? It's a huge amount of money because, like, for example, to get a visa to Kenya, to the US, I hear is about 25,000 shillings. About 25,000 shillings. Why don't they just say, okay, if you're unsuccessful, we're going to give you 80%? And I saw many countries, presidents coming up and saying, hey, we want our money back. We want our money back. Because this is one way of impoverishing us to the point where now they're coming to tax us. That's another double taxation, triple taxation. Yeah. And let's not talk about those people who are trying to export goods to the European Union. and other places, and how much money they pay in terms of, you know, the fees, customs, duties, how much money we're losing in that sense.
I think with the US, because there was a lot, I think there was a complaint made here with the
Mhm.
US visas. I think they either they return the money. If you don't make it through, they'll refund you. Something like that. I think there
Did
was a
they
lot
say
of
that?
complaints.
Ah,
Yeah,
that would be news. That would be news to
because
me.
people really lost a lot of money, and
Mhm.
especially now when they're stricter about giving the visas.
Oh yeah.
It's
Mhm.
very strict now. Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
strict.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think it has also it's been influenced by our foreign policy, which I've heard many political analysts and saying that is literally non-existent because we have managed to antagonize our neighbors somewhat, and
Oh,
we,
that's a big
especially
story right there. Yeah. Yeah.
especially the Sudan,
Mm-hmm.
where we are, it's alleged that weapons being supplied to the RSF are coming through the Jomo Kenyatta Airport.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, in fact, there's a
Yeah,
recent incident,
we
and
heard
this is
about that.
reported in the news.
Mm-hmm.
There's a recent incident of a plane being shot down, which was being flown by a Kenyan pilot, and they
Yeah.
said that on that plane they had, they claim it's humanitarian items, but it's actually military, weapons, and it
Hmm.
was shot down by the Sudanese armed forces. And of course, Kenya is in bad books because the UN, there's a UN report that links Kenya to the armament of the RSF, and of course we know the type of atrocities that are going on there um,
Mm-hmm.
in the Sudan, the raping and the killing and the genocide and all that is
Yeah.
happening. So
Mm-hmm.
and sadly we've been
Sorry.
connected with them. Yeah, sadly we've been connected with them, which is
Mm-hmm.
because we allowed them to come to Kenya, to Nairobi, and to declare
Yeah.
the,
Mm-hmm.
you
To
know,
set up a
so
military, a parallel government at the KICC at one of our iconic buildings. Just imagine that. Oh
yeah,
wow.
and
Wow. Mm-hmm.
and we're supposed to be like the country that was, brokering peace here and there, but now we've lost that position.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really unfortunate. We're not in good books with our neighbors, not in good books with the Sudan. So
Yeah.
we're just and they're saying that the RSF are fighting a UAE proxy war.
Mm-hmm.
And that's according to the Sudanese government. They're really upset with the Kenyan government. And as a result of that, they're refusing to import our tea. And Sudan was one of the largest importers of a Kenyan tea. So we are being affected economically too. So these are some of the decisions. This is some of the news. Actually, that was the headline. Is it yesterday? About the RSF, as Kenya being associated with the RSF, and through UN report that we are participating in them, because JKIA is a conduit, is one of the pathways through which this equipment is coming, this military equipment is getting to the RSF. It's really a really unfortunate sort of thing, something I don't think we've been engaged in as a nation. From what I remember, historically, we've always been the peace brokers. Yeah. Can't hear you. You're muted. You're muted. Maureen, you're muted.
I'm sorry about that. I think we're now on our own, and I think it's because it's very late. So I should also let you go now, Susan. I realize it's super, super late. It's 1 o'clock in Nairobi, and I think our kesha is like literally almost up. Would you like to say some lasting final comments? Make some final comments before we say goodnight, call it a night?
Yeah, I just want to, just say there's lots of stuff happening in Kenya. We've highlighted the controversial stuff. There's some good stuff happening as well. Tomorrow we have the Continental Gold Tour competitions, the Kipkeino Classic. That's an athletic competition. It's come to Kenya, so it's tomorrow, 31st of May. So if anybody's a sports person, they can find a way to watch it. I don't know whether it will be aired on TV. And then
what is the name again?
Kipkeino Classic. It's Continental Gold Tour athletics. They're going to do a lot of the sprints, the short races, and I saw 1500 meters. It's likely to also be some long distance running. And it's not at Moi, it's not at Kasarani. I saw that it was in one of the military places. What is it called? Anyway, you can check it up. Just look for Continental Gold Kipkeino Classics. I'm sure you'll find it. Let's support our men and women who do sports. That's what's one of the things that has put Kenya on the globe. And, I'm really excited to watch and see what's going to happen. Keep being vigilant, Kenyans. We know our power is in our voting. So register. We know the elections are coming in 2027, although there's a case in court implying that actually they should be in 2026. But I'm not sure how successful that case will be. But it's good for these cases to go to court. They keep people thinking about the implications or the wording of things and stuff like that. And let's just pray for our nation too. For the things we're seeing, there's a lot of insecurity that continues. We just talked about the abductions and disappearances, but we do know that there's continuing domestic violence. Femicide is continuing. Disappearances. I saw somewhere that there's even a lady, a young Kenyan girl who has disappeared in the US. They're looking for her and stuff like that. So let's keep our families safe.
And a young girl who was actually disappeared in Kenya as well,
Yes.
and actually buried. Yeah, it was very, very sad. Very, very sad. CCTV actually captured them. Yeah, this show would never be complete without talking about this, the disappearances of people. And I also heard of a man who was also disappeared. He came with his wife to attend, I think, his child's graduation in the US.
Yes.
And he suddenly got lost. We don't know what happened to him. And, in this day and age of ICE raids, it's very frightening, to imagine that your husband or your father has just disappeared. And he was given a lift. He was seen being given a lift to a certain place by people. I think maybe he has a memory loss. Maybe he has issues with his memory. Yeah. But there's also a lot of domestic violence going on in Kenya, and it's unfortunate. Very unfortunate.
And then, of course, the big question is the place of art in politics. There was some to-do between Kindiki and Gachagua about the use of, the artists, and it really the issue is what role does art have in politics? Apparently, there's some musicians which normally sing and attend Gashagua's events, but when Kindiki went, they also went there, and it's part of what you were talking about earlier when you're talking about empowerment. Kindiki is on a very interesting campaign around Mount Kenya. Empowerment and stuff like that, and so these musicians went and sang and caused a bit of some tensions between the two because DCP, the Gashaguas, they saw that this was some sort of insidious way of luring people with not nefarious intentions, and of course, he came out really, in a quite a high-handed way when he was addressing that and saying we should just boycott this, boycott that. Those musicians who went there, shouldn't allow them to sing in your place or this or that. And also the victimization of, there's a police officer who sings, he's called, Samido. And he sang a song, One Time Ruto. And his face
is that why he was actually sent to? He was relocated, wasn't he? What do they call that? He was transferred.
Yeah, and facing disciplinary action.
If you start messing up.
Yeah, there's an example of art in politics, you know, where the songs are,
Yeah.
are singing current affairs, and
Yeah.
you know, he got into problems. His bosses were not happy.
Why are they not happy all of a sudden? And the way he's always very proud to say that he's a military guy. He's a police officer. So what I say.
Yeah. Yeah, so on that
Yeah.
note, I just wish everybody well. Take
Yeah.
care, keep warm. The weather changes in Nairobi. The weather's really strange. It's cold, so
Mm-hmm.
you have to wrap up and keep warm. There's been a really bad flu going around. People are saying they've been sick, laid off for about 3 weeks, 4 weeks, not able to function well. And so just take care, wrap up warm. Don't take, even if you're out at night or wherever, just make sure you're dressed as warmly as possible.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for listening and joining us. We're looking forward to your comments. We will interact with you even on the comment space.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Suzanne. That has been such a lovely roundup. I mean, it's always a pleasure to have you on board. And everybody who participated, one of you is still on the show. Thank you for being here. I don't know who specifically is on. I'm just saying, we're just going to say good night. And thank you so much for listening in. Yeah, just bear with us as we try to regain our schedule back. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. And good night. To-dos. Bye-bye. To-dos. Remember to give us a thumbs up, to subscribe, to share this video with a lot of people. Okay, let them know that we're here, and also watch my previous videos, the ones that I do record, and give me thumbs up so that we can grow this channel, because we want to do more. We want to do bigger and better this time. Okay, bye. To-dos. Thank you. Bye-bye.